Hello and welcome to another edition of MHQ's Foundation 101 podcast, where today we're delighted to announce and release MHQ's cheat sheet on Foundation and other legacy planning tool. By popular demand, we have actually summarized everything that we have been talking about over the past couple of months in something that is very user-friendly to enable you to choose the best tool for you, for your family, or for your clients. So what do we have in mind there is that really what we try to do is look at foundations from all angles, be it company versus foundation, their similarities, their differences. It was wills and foundation. They both serve the same objective to an extent, but they have complete different characteristics as far as consolidation and asset protection. Then comes trust and foundation, often compared, very similar, but with small differences. And for those that want to raise cash and co-invest, a fund might be better suited than a foundation, and they have comparable parameters. So what we wanted to do really is summarize this. If you want to dig a little bit more into each one of them, you have our podcast published earlier, but if you want a bird's eye overview of these, you can download this cheat sheet, now available through our platform and website, and hopefully it will help you navigate these tools, rapidly identify what is suitable for you, and then seek advice on what works best for you, your families, your clients. Now, why did we actually do this? Is I can exemplify this by a couple of illustrations. Typically, here is an entrepreneur, he wants to raise cash, so maybe he will restructure. He's now 100% owned LLC, perhaps using one of the two financial centers for a tool that will be better geared for various classes of shares, more appealing to investors. And typically, he would, if he's a non-Muslim, register a will so that in the event of something happening to him, his shares will be catered for. But this does not really address a business continuity, as I will demonstrate. So perhaps one may want to go with something a little bit more sophisticated, a foundation, which serves the same legacy planning purpose, but has other benefit. So what do I mean by this is that if one has a will and is to pass away, unfortunately, the moment one passes, there's a probate procedure that will start at the domestic level, and all this while the asset will be frozen, which will have a negative impact on operation, and for sure will not necessarily satisfy third-party investors if they are there. So eventually the shares held by the principals will pass to the heirs, but all the while it will be a little bit clumsy in terms of operation. So that's where a foundation will be better suited, because if the founder passes here, what you'll notice is that if he is a controller, can be easily substituted as a council member, but more importantly, you have full business continuity at the operational level, topped up with asset protection, which is something that a will not be able to give you, because in that case, there is no probate. So a lot of people would also look into trust foundation. They both avoid a probate, they both segregate the assets, and to a large extent, they have very similar characteristics. Now, what we have looked into is comparing these in terms of their differences. And really, it boils down to this. A foundation does have a legal personality, so very similar to a company, and a trust doesn't. Eventually, that means that in practice, foundations are better recognized by the DED, the registrars, the land department, and can be slightly easily more controlled by principal and their family. And that makes them very suitable for local and regional assets. And that's what you will often see. You will see an operating company, some real estate, perhaps they will be restructured through intermediary company to facilitate financing, refinancing, pooling of assets, etc. And then you will have a foundation at the top. This is something that you will see increasingly more than 100 of these structures are being set up this year in the UAE, just like this. And the whole point here is that if the founder passes, very easy substitution as council members, and you have full business continuity on local and regional assets and asset protection. Now, I illustrated here simply on local and regional assets. Could it have assets outside? 100%. Of course, it could have a bank account in Switzerland, in Singapore, wherever you want. Now, by choice, some principles will actually say, I would like to segregate not only the assets location or the custody, but also the holding. That's where you can actually find a tandem of structures with foundation for the domestic market and perhaps a trust registered in Singapore in that example for other assets located outside the region, say a bank account, say a real estate in London, for example. I illustrated here an insurance policy. All this can be done, and it's a question of preference. And a trust may be better suited for that. It really depends on each of our circumstances. What is interesting is that you can actually have the two work in tandem. The foundation here locally to hold and control regional assets, and a trust that can be a guardian or a council member of the foundation. Everything is possible. It will be designed and built up to each family's specific preferences. So this was to illustrate you all these tools and how they can work in practice. And again, to remind you how these work, their key characteristics, their differences, and to give you a quick view of all the features. Here is our ultimate cheat sheet. Hopefully you will find it useful, and it will be the first steps in your journey towards structure optimization for you and your family. If you have any questions, you can always send them to us, either to myself or to partner Kat Zagati, who knows much better than I do. And we will be back next week for another session discussing how powers can be delegated in and around a foundation, a very practical topic, this one. Thank you very much, and see you next week. Bye-bye.